Hello, and welcome to PCI's Tech TV mini-series, New Mosaicing Features in Geomatica. In this episode, we will look at Geomatica's new interactive mosaic editing tools. Specifically, we're going to cover the following three topics. We're going to show you how to access the interactive mosaic editor after applying automatic mosaicing. We're going to introduce you to the new edge dodging points, and then finally introduce you to the new floating dodging points. So let's begin by showing you the imagery that we will be working with. If I bring up focus here, you can see that we have 4 orthorectified rapid eye images. They're collected on different dates over the Southern California. So you can see here we have the 4 different images, and you can see that there's radiometric differences between the images that we need to be able to handle. So in order to do this, we can create an OrthoEngine project. As I mentioned, we already have the orthorectified images, so we can skip right down to the mosaicing step, and we can just set up or define our mosaic area. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a new mosaic file called mos.tech.tv. Click OK. And then we're going to skip right away to the automatic mosaicing section. So here, we'll basically just leave the defaults here, and then we can just simply click Create Preview. So now this is going to generate everything we need to go into our interactive mosaic editing window. So you can immediately close down the preview window that opens. And we can then close this window here, our automatic mosaicing window. We can then proceed to click on the manual mosaicing window here, which will enter our interactive mosaic editing session. So we can immediately see that we have our 4 images that are now added to our mosaicing project. We have our cut lines outlined in vectors here. So we can turn the cut lines off by simply clicking on this button here. And then we can see something interesting. What we can see is that we have a very nice color balancing between this image here. So if we click on it, this image here and this image here, but then we have a discontinuity in the colors between, say, this image here and this image. But then these 2 images also have a good color balancing. So this is the problem that the edge dodging points help to solve. So using a traditional approach, what you would be tasked with is you might be able to increase, say, the brightness and the contrast of this image. So say, for example, we increase it here so that we get a nice alignment between this image and here, but then we end up with now an inconsistency between these 2 images. So that method is no good. And then of course we could do the opposite and try to decrease the brightness over here. So we can decrease the brightness so that we get a nice fit between these 2 images, but then we've introduced now a discrepancy here. So this is the problem that we're trying to solve, as I said, with the dodging points. So what we can do now is by clicking on a particular dodging point and entering using this toolbar, we can then click on the increase or decrease dodging point button, and we can now, for example, decrease the brightness of, say, this whole edge, but it'll blend nicely into this region. So now very quickly with one little motion I was able to completely fix this entire mosaic without introducing any new problems. This is the nice feature of edge dodging points, but it gets even more powerful than that. So we can click on our edge dodging point too, and we can actually add a new edge dodging point. So for example, I can click on one here and click on another one here, and now I can edit just a subset of the cut line. So I can click on this particular dodging point and say if I want to change this image, and now I can increase, say for example, the brightness of just this area, but notice how just this area increased if that's what I wanted to do. Obviously I'm going to reset that. And another nice thing is I can also change the colors. So say there's a red hue that's needs to be removed. So I can change it to just the red option and then decrease so I can remove, or I can add more of a red hue to that area. So it gives you now a lot of flexibility, a lot of power in order to very quickly edit your mosaics. This is the edge dodging points. Which brings us now to the floating dodging points. So floating dodging points are similar to edge dodging points, except they work on a particular image and localize the edits to a specific area within that image. So we can see in this area here we have a region that is overexposed, and we want to say lower the brightness so that we can see more contrast or see more features in this particular area, but we don't want it to negatively affect our surrounding region. So we can use, as I mentioned, floating dodging points for that. So to set this up, what I usually do is I will create a bit of a perimeter, and these perimeter floating points basically prevent the changes I'm going to make within here to be applied from outside the perimeter. So for example, I can set up one floating dodging point like that, click on my area, and then I can just simply decrease the brightness to this region. Sometimes you need a few more than that, so you can click on an additional one. Say you want to change it even more here. So the same thing is true. We can click on this one, and then once again decrease this area. And you can see how we can continue to decrease these overexposed regions without negatively affecting the rest of the image. So this gives you even more power in terms of how you want your final mosaic to look.